Doesn't sound like it?
No, it says that there's...
Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Front Page, a show brought to you by Cayuga Community College and produced here on campus for the spring 2022 semester. This is a show that's broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon Fios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, better known as ARMA, as well as Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. Last week, WSYR, better known as Channel 9, did a great 30-minute show on Cayuga County tourism, from historical homes such as those of William Seward and Harriet Tubman, to the arts, including the Schweinfurth Memorial Arts Center, and local wineries and the beauty of our lakes as they related to tourism. In our studio tonight is Karen Kuhl, the Executive Director of the Cayuga County Office of Tourism. We wanted to ask her on to talk about where tourism stands right now locally on their efforts, as well as how has COVID impacted the industry locally and regionally. Welcome back to the studio.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, delighted to have you here, and I do want to talk about this wonderful piece. I thought it was a great show. Was last week WSYR Channel 9 did a show on tourism in Cayuga County.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful show, almost a year in the making, because we wanted to make sure there were all seasons involved, because there's something to do here anytime during the year.
Yes, so there's some people, the boating does not look like there was any ice on any lake. I think it was a Cayuga lake there. So did your office solicit this piece?
Yes, we worked with it in tandem with them. We kind of gave them a guidance, individuals to talk to, the different things they wanted to make sure and get covered, and they took it from there. They did a fabulous job.
So do you pay for it?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's part of your budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to paraphrase something, and please correct me where I get this wrong.
Absolutely.
But I think I read in, maybe it was the progress section, that you said that individuals don't necessarily focus on coming to Cayuga County when they're traveling to the Finger Lakes. They're talking about coming to the Finger Lakes. Your job and your staff's job is to get them to focus from the Finger Lakes into Cayuga County.
Exactly. Let's say you're traveling to Florida. You're not going to Dade County. You're going to Miami. You're going to the greater Miami area, right? So you focus on the attractions in that. So the Finger Lakes as a vacation region in New York State is gaining a lot of recognition. So people are aware of the Finger Lakes region. So it is our responsibility as the Cayuga County Tourism Office to ensure that our product within the region highlights. So we're always looking for differentiators. What makes our wineries different than the rest of the wineries? What makes our hiking trails different? So we're looking for those differentiators, and that's what I mean. People are not scheduling their vacations and planning their vacations around our county. They are looking at the region that they want to go to. So it's our responsibility
and find spots in there that...
Yep.
So is WSYR's piece a tool for you?
Yes, absolutely.
So do you have any idea, I know it's too quick, but will they be able to give you an idea of how many people view it, besides Nielsen ratings or whatever? But will this be something that people will download from your site?
Yes to all of that, guys.
Yes, okay.
So yes, we'll be able to get ratings as far as how many viewerships they had when they aired it. They also teased it a couple times before the actual airing on Monday, so we'll be able to see how those performed as well. And there's a social media aspect of theirs. It's on their social media, and it is in our social media. It lives on our YouTube channel as well as on theirs. So
will it be rebroadcast?
I don't know if it'd be rebroadcasted the same way, but we have talked about having pieces of it air within other programs.
And so the other reason to have you on here is just to talk about the state of tourism. Obviously, the Citizen produced its progress section last year, and you and your office appear prominently in a couple of sections there. So how is the state of tourism locally? It's
very good in general. We all know that COVID and 2020 was a very hard year for tourism. Businesses at every level suffered. The uniqueness that we had in the Finger Lakes region is that we have so much open air, so many open destinations. Most of the wineries have nice big terraces in front. You can spend time in the water, in the hiking trail.
You can be in that nice pavilion down there.
Absolutely.
You can social distance.
Yep. So within New York State, the Finger Lakes region performed very well.
Was this region doing, and I don't know how you would rate this, but were we doing better than other regions? I know that, for example, New York City got hit very, very hard.
Yep.
Tompkins County, because they have a lot of places there that are enclosed.
Yeah, they were hit harder because of the whole collegiate aspect of it. The colleges were closed, the parents weren't traveling, there were no traveling sports, so that did hit them harder. So even within the Finger Lakes region, Cayuga County did perform very well.
And so there were some ups and downs. Let's talk about the ups first because they're always important to do. Outdoor venues, and when I say outdoor venues, I'm not just talking about walking trails, but outdoor venues did remarkably better than everybody expected.
Absolutely. Even when you look at restaurants that don't have any outdoor space didn't perform as well as restaurants who have outdoor terraces and patios. They even did better. A lot of the museums and a lot of the performing arts specifically were the ones that were hit the hardest. The APT didn't open the whole year. The Rev Theater opened initially in 21 with limited seating, and then they had more flexibility. Where, like you said, the vineyards and hiking trails and boating all did very well.
So three that I want to talk about the ups first. We'll get to those who've had. No. I just only because I think this is such a good story from this perspective that it looks like Fairhaven State Park Beach, Fillmore Glen State Park, Emerson Park. Those were the go-to places for many people.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
And I was going to say that I know we're supposed to focusing on the positive, but that came with some hardships as well because some of them were overloaded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, like
how so?
Fairhaven Beach State Park a couple of times had to slow down the entrance of people and said we're pretty much at capacity. So then they would reopen half an hour later, kind of thing. We a couple of times did not advertise our hiking trails because they were already overloaded, especially in 2020 when there was so much.
Because you don't have anything to do.
Exactly. So many people were told to go out to hike, that the hiking trails were a little overloaded.
So you have two state parks in that group of three. The other one's a county park. Do you, as a tourism bureau, also advertise them as well?
Absolutely.
Because they're part of the fiber here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're one of the prime destinations to come visit.
So outdoor venues had a good 20. They had a better 21, or?
I would say about as good 21.
Okay.
2021 both outperformed. They did excellent.
And do you think that still continues in this coming year?
I think that they have been found. I think that new people have found it, not just the parks, but us as an outdoor destination.
So I went there once. I'm going to go back there because I'm going to refer it to somebody because it was really good.
Yes.
So indoor venues did not do as well.
Correct.
So two that were profiled in the Citizen story were two of my favorite places, are the Seward House and the Schweinfurth Memorial Arts Center, and Donald Lamb will be here with us on Thursday. But admissions income for both of them dropped by 75%, and visitation by 70% in 2020. Did any of that come? Well, first of all, was that solely due because people just weren't going anywhere?
Yes, and those that were going someplace preferred not to do indoors, and those that really wanted to do indoors, the museums themselves were handicapped with how many people they could have at a time.
So did those numbers get much better or greatly better in 21? Because we did have that surge at the end of summer. And for some, whether you're the Seward House or if you're the Schweinfurth does the quilt show, did the numbers come back to pre-pandemic levels?
No, not quite to pre-pandemic levels. They were definitely better than 20, but I don't believe they went back to pre-pandemic levels. They're still climbing. 22, it's looking a lot better, and it has started off much better. A lot of those locations are starting to open right now. So we'll see how the rest of the year goes.
And you mentioned the Rev in the Auburn Public Theater. So is Rev back in? I know they have Cafe 108, but they are doing some shows there now, correct?
You mean the APT? Yes.
I'm sorry, APT.
Yep, they are starting to do some shows. They've done some open mics, and they've done some collaborations and some performances.
And I know they have the Calamari Sisters coming back in July. I went on their website. So in that case, do you think they get back to capacity sooner than later?
I hope so. Yes, I think that's the projection for this year. Maybe not the pre-pandemic levels. It also depends on the amount of programming that they can schedule.
So whether it's they or the Rev, you buy theater tickets, you still thinking you're going to see people masked? Do you think they're still going to want space between seats? Auburn Public Theater is 199 seats. Do you still think that's going to be an issue from a tourism point of view?
You are.
Not a public health issue, but just the perception issue.
I'm hopeful that that'll be fine. I think people will always have it in the back of their mind. They'll be questioning. They'll be thinking about it, uh, and but I hope that they will be comfortable. And I've started seeing that more and more. So I have confidence that by the time the summer rolls around, people will be more comfortable being next to each other.
So oddly enough, I had bought tickets for Blue Man Group that was supposed to be the week after the pandemic kicked off in March 20.
You and me both.
And so we went last weekend. I think it was last weekend. And packed theater, people wearing their masks, people checking IDs and vaccines at the door. Do you think that's the norm, though?
No.
I only ask that because there are going to be some people who are going to be deterred from that.
Yeah.
They don't want to wear a mask, or they don't want to show a vaccine card or a passport.
Yeah. What I've seen the trend lately is that they're dropping more and more. So by the time the end of summer comes, I think most people will feel comfortable being without a mask. I think there will always be a percentage of the population now that will feel more comfortable, and I think it'll be accepted. I think before, if you saw somebody wearing a mask next to you, you wonder what kind of, what's going on with this individual. I think that perception will be gone, and we'll be a lot more comfortable knowing that some people are more comfortable wearing it. But I really think by the time the summer comes, it will be almost back to normal.
So one of the shifts it looks like it's occurring with you and your priorities for your office is outdoor venues are doing really great. We can expect them to continue. We've got to really focus on these indoor venues and promoting them. Am I correct on that?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you do that?
Positioning and talking about the product and the shows that are coming up, but also being open and communicating the regulations that each place does want to continue placing. But mask mandates have dropped in so many places that, like I said, by the time summer comes around, I don't think that'll be one of the first questions being asked. So it's just continuing to position and talking about them positively.
And we're going to talk in a minute about hotels, but I want to ask about visitor stays. I want to give you an example. So during the summer, I went downtown with my 9-year-old, and we caught the beginning of a National Park Service guide who was fantastic. But she was there, and what I noticed was the group that was there was a group of African-American steel workers from the Midwest. I don't know if you were aware of this group that came in. They came in on motorbikes.
Oh, yes.
But they were terrific, but they did a walking tour. And so did something like that, is that one of those unseen shining lights of the tourism industry but that has a domino effect because those guys all had to go someplace to eat. I'm assuming they had to go someplace to stay because they weren't going back to the Midwest by motorcycle that night. And they have to fill gas tanks.
Yeah. So what do you mean
something like the National Park Service doing something like those tours, does that just reinforce? Is that what we need more of to build momentum?
Yes, that's one of many examples that you can use to build a momentum. The National Park Service being present is a huge thing. They're widely recognized as having quality product. In the walking tours, I thought was more what you were leaning to.
That was just great.
Yeah, and that's something that was born out of necessity. It's like, what can we do? We got to do something, so start the walking tours.
So do you continue those?
Yes, they look like they're going to continue.
Because this was going from your office to the statue in front, did William Seward, and then they were all walking up to Fort Hill Cemetery.
Correct.
So before I get to hotels, I just mentioned those motorcyclists, which, like I said, they had some really interesting questions for the National Park Service. Rising gas prices. What's the worry? I mean, you're coming back, you got this goal, and now, good, bad, or indifferent, gas is up.
Yep. It's our new challenge. I think, like I said, we were recognized, discovered by a lot of people, the people that were not traveling internationally, they wanted to stay locally. So we saw a lot of people from Boston, Philadelphia, Jersey, New York City who discovered the Finger Lakes acidification region. And now with rising gas prices, are those destinations going to continue traveling here like they did before?
What's the forecast from your industry at this stage?
Up until 3 weeks ago, very different than now. Right now, it's the rising concern. It's a topic of conversation right now. How will the scenic road trip?
But the one thing that will do is that there's not going to be a lot of international travel. I've already talked to people who are not going to Europe now. So will they put their tourism bucks local?
Yes, I think that's the alternative. People still want to do something different. They want to go to know a new destination, so they will keep it regionally more than just locally.
So hotels, that was referring to Kiplinger, Washington Letter has done some profiles on the industry, tourism. They say many places are up, but the lagger here has been hotels by far. Has that been the case locally?
Our hotels have fared very well.
So you had I thought I read this, it was reported that occupancy in Cayuga County is higher than any other county in the Finger Lakes. Your numbers are better?
Our numbers have been better. I don't know if it's higher than the entire Finger Lakes region, but higher than most of our neighboring counties, yes. And I think it has a lot to do with the way we position the destination as the outdoor place to be.
So did you see a big drop from March 2020, and when did it start to come back?
Late summer.
Late of 21?
Of 20.
Of 20.
20. Yep. So March, April, May, I think they were the worst, of course. June, you started seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. By the time September hit, we were surprised that there was so much folks moving around. But for 1 quarter of that year, it was rock.
How about venues that have, usually serve as wedding destinations for, I think of the Springside, I think of the Pavilion, there's the Hilton Garden, the Holiday Inn. With people delaying weddings for health reasons, was that a big factor impacting?
Oh, yes.
Yep. Has that come back?
Yes, you see a lot of new interest in weddings. Recently, Cayuga State Winery up in Fairhaven did I forget what they call it, but it's basically a wedding get to know. So you get to meet caterers and flower displays and stuff. And there's a lot of interest for that. There's a lot of interest in people looking for new venues to get married. 2020 was dead. 2021 were a lot of the postponed weddings. And what a lot of venues saw, instead of flat out cancellations, like, can I just postpone it a year? Can I postpone it?
But somebody like the Hilton Garden, I think it was referred to in the story in the progress, they're booked from May to October. They got a very low vacancy rate.
Yes. Yeah. No, they've done very well.
So one of the other benefits to Cayuga County, it seems, was this issue of businesses that had business travelers, and we'll get into some businesses are not coming back to travel, but somebody like Tessie Plastics, which partnered with Abbott Labs, and they did these COVID-19 testing kits, they helped boost your occupancy rate.
They helped maintain it in a way that we could never been so lucky. Yes, they were some of the ones that kept the hotels open when it was the hardest time, and so it was critical.
And is business travel, Kiplinger, again, I don't want to keep referring to it, but they had some interesting data on there. It sounds like nationally, business travel is still down.
Yes.
So do we get a lot of business travelers, or are we not that destination where you're looking at, the obvious ones are Knoxville, Orlando, Washington, Los Angeles, Hollywood, whatever. How do we do when it comes to business travel?
I would say significantly lower than a lot of other major destinations, but it's still a good percentage of support for the hotels. But I think the majority of the fluctuation that we get from is the leisure traveler.
You also indicated that we don't get a lot of international travel. So where New York or Ithaca, for that matter, may have suffered because they don't have that. Is that we don't get the peaks and the valleys because it's a steady low number?
Of international travelers, yes. They still come most in the summertime, but we don't have, our primary international market is Canada, but we are looking.
Do you do much advertising to bring Canadians here?
We do some advertising directly from our office, but we also do a lot of co-op advertising with the Brand USA and I Love New York.
Okay, so regional approach on those. One of the phrases that's been brought out is this issue of combining business trips and leisure. More people want to do that. I don't think I'm pronouncing this right, bleisure. I don't know that I like that term, but it's not for me to determine. So are you seeing more of that in this region where people are combining? They'll do their business, but they and their family are going to stay a couple of extra days to do something else. Yep.
And I think that's what caused a lot of the boom in the home rentals. The vacation rentals went up significantly, and there were extended stays because individuals who they're working from home anyway. Let's take the whole family, pack them up, and go to a nice destination. I'll work 9 to 5, and the kids can have fun outside, and then we all go do something together. I think it's a trend we'll see more and more of. My husband and I have talked about it. It's like, why don't we go take a vacation? And we work part-time. We don't have to take as many vacation days, and since a lot of us have learned how to work virtually, it works very nicely. And we have seen a lot of that in the area.
And is that a market that Cayuga County directly is trying to tap into, or are you doing that more on a regional approach with I Love New York or other groups?
We, at the beginning, did do some advertising specifically for that, primarily to New York City, and I think it did pay off. But most of that we do as a group promotion.
I wanted to ask about, before going to your office and what you do, Hilton Garden, it was reported, reduced their staff from 60 to 7 during COVID. Did you see similar trends with inns and motels and hotels dropping staff that large?
Yeah, I think it was at a necessity.
Did many of your tourism venues, were they eligible for the payroll protection plan or for some type of other CARES Act money that helped them?
Yes, when we facilitated a couple of conversations at the beginning on how to tap into some of those funding, some of that assistance, and I think PPP was one of the ones that was most popular, and there are a lot of the tourism industry.
Are most of your motels, inns, and hotels, and inns all back to normal staffing?
Mostly, but many of them are still in need of staffing, and that's become a staffing issue. So many were
separate issue.
Correct.
So I want to ask about one property that we haven't talked about, and that's Aurora. Mm-hmm. So Pleasant Rollins has properties there. How did Aurora and the Aurora properties fare during COVID?
Aurora marketing team and strategists are extremely smart. One of the things that they did originally, they shut everything down. Let's just turn the faucet completely off. Let's strategize. Let's plan to see what the future is. And then they start offering the entire residence. You can rent the entire home, like the E.B. Morgan for one family, the Zabriskie for another family. And it became a huge marketing tool. So a lot of people were made aware of this opportunity, and they were so conscious in offering a place for people to feel safe that it boosted them and elevated them in exposure.
And during all this, they were constructing this Aurora, the Sherwood Road Aurora Spa, which opened up in the fall. That does not have accommodations, does it?
No.
It does not. So how is that doing since it's first open, and what's that as a driver from a tourism perspective from you?
It's an excellent luxury driver. We have had a lot of interest from travel writers and influencers who want to come and cover it because it's a luxury product that we don't have that much of in the area. It is absolutely beautiful. The views.
So once they're in, then you think it will expand to those people who are influenced by them and their readers.
Yeah.
So I asked you all those questions because I want to talk about money.
Let's talk about money.
So I asked that because a large part of your budget is derived from the bed tax. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
So what's your overall budget?
This year is about $800.
And how much of that is bed tax?
99.9% of it.
Okay. So how did you do? Are you at the same level that you were in 2019 today? Are you coming back with the numbers that you need to operate your operations?
We're doing better than 2019.
2019. Okay. And so how did you deal with 2020 and 2021? Because you still had to advertise a product.
2020 was the hardest because we had no idea what was coming, but we cut everything off. We we kind of closed off all the contracts that were out there. We ourselves took PPP money, and we also did the half unemployment. I forget what it's called right now. So we were working part-time.
So during this period of time, you mentioned it. I'll just mention one service, Airbnb, but there are other similar services. You saw that go up. Do you get revenue from those?
Yes.
So they are taxed in some format, so that goes to your bed tax.
Correct.
And have you seen a shift there? Was it always hotels and inns and motels and then Airbnbs and similar services, or is it shifted around? Do you get that data?
Yes, we get that data as an aggregate, and yes, it definitely has shifted, and it has not changed. In 2020, it was a significant portion of it because the hotels were the ones who suffered the most. People wanted to stay where they can control their environment better, and it has stayed steady. So we'll see what 2022 is like because we do project that people have transitioned to that kind of lodging.
In an ad that you took out in the progress section, it says that visitors spent $87.1 million in Cayuga County.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that number from, and what makes it up?
It's the New York State numbers. They developed a report. It's called From the Oxford Economics, and they break it down from state level and then vacation region level, and from there to county level. That is compared to, I believe it was 1.6 in 20, because the numbers that are in the progress now are 2020 numbers.
Okay.
And I believe they're compared to 106 billion from 2019.
2019. So we won't know the next numbers until next year. But it also says 1,296 jobs were generated.
Mm-hmm.
Is that also from the state?
Correct.
And so the other number, which I don't understand, I think your predecessor most likely tried to explain it, Meg Rogers, Vanek, tried to explain it to me at least 36 times. So go slow here. It says that each taxpayer saves $383 in state and local taxes by tourism. How is that?
The way I like to explain it is that tourism is an export product. So when we have visitors that come here and they choose to spend their money that was generated in New York City and they spend it here in Cayuga County, so you're bringing in outside money to our region. That goes into the sales tax base, and that goes into, it's money that gets put to work in Cayuga County. Therefore, the residents don't have to put that money in.
I want to talk to you about, we got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I want to talk to you about 2 different projects. One is the Tubman coin, and I don't want to get into too depth there. But the United States Senate passed the Harriet Tubman Bicentennial Commemorative Coin Act. In general, what is that? They're going to produce 2 coins. They're going to produce a silver coin, which is $5, and a gold coin is $5, and a silver coin is $1. They will then sell them, and that will generate money for who?
I don't know.
Okay.
I assume that's for...
Well, it says here, so I'm
sorry.
Robert Hardy did a story in the Citizen about a week ago. There's a premium on there, $35 surcharge for the gold, I'm assuming, and $10 for the silver. But $9.5 million of that, half of that will go to the Harriet Tubman home. Do you expect that to go to the home or to local tourism efforts? Or are they not that far yet?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't have the answer to that specifically.
So we don't even know if this is past the House and where it is. Mm-hmm. This was supposed to be passed 2 years ago. So, but there is an opportunity there to promote the Tubman name, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what we get from it is the recognition of Harriet Tubman. And what we've been working on so hard is to make sure that messaging is about Auburn and Cayuga County. Because everybody knows about Harriet Tubman. Just because there's a coin doesn't mean that we'll get too much recognition of it. Unless we've already sent out the messaging and keep talking about Harriet Tubman, Auburn, and that's more recognized.
So the other thing I want to talk about is just real quickly is Mackenzie Childs.
Yes.
So they did virtual. Did they do virtual last year or canceled in 20? I can't remember.
The barn sale you're referring to? Yes, the barn sale has been canceled.
So this year, so I'm assuming the barn sale as a place where people will go to restaurants, will buy gas, will stay overnight. That's a big boom to Cayuga County.
Yes.
So, because many of those people, collectors, stay over for days, it seems. So do you think that the barn sale will go back to in person this year?
Last that I heard, no.
No, you think that so the other thing that they're talking about, and I read in the Post-Standard the other day, I think it was yesterday, they look like they're going to have to do a crafters event there in September. Is that what we need more of? Are people to start going back to doing events?
Yes. Events definitely drive a lot of people to engage, especially events that there's some interactive engagement movement with them. So yes, crafters events, the quilting event, any of those that bring people together under the same message.
And you think that we're from a tourism perspective, we're on the way back?
Yes, I think we absolutely are on the way back to those.
Love to have you give us an update again on what's 35 minutes goes a little bit fast as I get from the control room, as they keep signaling. But we have had as our guest Cayuga County Tourism Director Karen Kuhl. Thank you for joining us and talking about what's going on in your industry and what trends are going on locally. And we'd love to have you back on in the very near future.
Always great to talk to you. Thank you.
We'll be back on Thursday with 2 new guests. We'll be back with Cayuga County Veterans Affairs Director Kevin Schwab to give us an update on the work of his office as well as his new job in Inside Government. And on Beyond the Front Page, I mentioned we're going to have the Schweinfurth Memorial Art Center's Executive Director, Donna Lamb, talk about the Art Center and the state of arts during COVID. Over the next month, we do have a slate full of programs. Our guests include New York State Senator Pamela Helming, Assemblyman Brian Mactolo, Cayuga County Legislative Chairman David Gould, and Cayuga Community College President Brian Durant, Stephanie Hutchinson of the Auburn Housing Authority, as well as Melissa Kartner of the YMCA to talk about summer camp on Wasco Lake. And then we'll also have Auburn School District's Jeff Parazola, the superintendent, and Business Director Lisa Green to talk about the proposed budget that will go before voters in May. And then we'll have our final forum, or final telecast will be our forum on May 3rd here at the college with all the candidates for the Auburn School Board. You can send us your ideas for guests or questions to Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page. By email, you can send them to cozguytho@aol.com or Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page, 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching tonight. Have a good night. Have a good tomorrow. Join us back here on Thursday. Be safe and get vaccinated or boosted.